So today we're going to talk about drugs and addictions. First of all, we need to know what is a drug. In order to know this, I'm going to tell you about some three meanings. That is the first one, that a drug is a chemical which is given to people in order to treat or prevent an illness or disease. Second one, drugs are substances that some people take because of their pleasing effects, but which are usually illegal. If you drug a person or animal, you give them a chemical substance in order to make them sleepy or unconscious. These are the three concepts. The first one and the third are most of all for medical circumstances. For addiction, the question is, what is addiction? Addiction is a complex condition, a brain disease that is manifested by compulsive substance use despite harmful consequences. With people with addiction have an intense focus on using a certain substance, such as alcohol or drugs, to the point that it takes over their lives. They keep using alcohol or a drug even when they know it will cause problems. There are a number of effective treatments are available, and people can recover from addiction and live normal productive lives. People with substance use disorder have disordered thinking, behavior, and body functions. Changes in the brain wiring are what cause people to have intense cravings for the drug and make it hard to stop using the drug. Brain imaging studies show changes in the area of the brain that relate to judgment, decision making, learning, memory, and behavior. This substance can cause harmful changes in how the brain functions. These changes can last long after the immediate effect of the drug. The intoxication is the intense pleasure, calm, increased senses, or a high caused by the drug. Intoxication symptoms are different for each substance. Over time, people with addiction develop a tolerance, meaning that they need larger amounts to feel the effect of the drug. And people with addictive disorders may be aware of their problems, but be unable to stop it even if they want to. The addiction may cause health problems as well as problems at work and with family members and friends. The misuse of drugs and alcohol is the leading cause of preventable illness and premature death. Many people experience both mental illness and addiction. The mental illness may be prevented before the addiction, or the addiction may trigger or make a mental disorder worse. Some ways that addiction can be treated is that the first step on the road to recovery is the recognition of the problem. A health professional can conduct a formal assessment of symptoms to see if a substance use disorder exists. And other things are like therapies, global therapies, or medication are used to control drug cravings and relieve several symptoms of withdrawal. Many people find self-help groups for individuals like Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, as well as their family members. All known or known family groups are useful also.
Okay, so heroin is an illegal drug, highly addictive, and is processed from the morphine, which is extracted from certain plants, and usually is sold in form of a white powder or sometimes brown. Okay, so the constant consume of this drug modifies the physical structure and the brain physiology, which creates the neuronal and hormonal imbalances. Also, if you constantly consume this drug, it creates levels of tolerance to this drug, which means that in a certain point you will consume more of it, and also it creates dependence of that drug. Okay. So the marijuana is a plant with a mix of color between brown and green, and it is usually smoked, but it can also be mixed with other food. The effect of this drug depends on the person that consumes it, because when you can feel relaxed, another person can feel with anxiety or fear, so it depends on the person.
A very high blood temperature, blood pressure, and body temperature, and the effects begin within seconds to minutes of use, and the last is about from 5 to 90 minutes. Cocaine has a very small number of accepted medical uses, like numbing fingers and decreasing bleeding during nasal surgery.
Well, good morning. My name is Fernando Gonzalez, and I'm going to explain tobacco and alcohol, and I hope you enjoy. Well, tobacco is a product prepared from the leaves of the tobacco plant by curing them. The chief commercial crop, as known also as tobacco, the more potent and also used around the world. Also, tobacco contains the alkaline nicotine, which is a simultaneously a harmful alkaloid. Well, now we're going to talk about alcohol. Well, alcohol is an organic compound with the hydroxyl functional group is bound to a carbon. Also, the term alcohol originally referred to the primary alcohol, ethanol. And also the suffix of appears in the geographic chemical name. Okay, also for knowing like many kinds of alcohol, like beer and other examples. Well, thank you for your attention.
Okay, so heroin is an illegal drug, highly addictive, and is processed from the morphine, which is extracted from certain plants, and usually is sold in form of a white powder or sometimes round. Okay, so the constant consumption of this drug modifies the physical structure and the brain physiology, which creates the neuronal and hormonal imbalances. Also, if you constantly consume this drug, it creates levels of tolerance to this drug, which means that in a certain point you will consume more of it, and also it creates dependence of that drug. Okay, so the marijuana is a plant with a mix of color between brown and green, and it is usually smoked, but it can also be mixed with other food. So the effect of this drug depends on the person that consumes it, because when you can feel relaxed, another person can feel with anxiety or fear, so it depends on the person.
As a conclusion, we'd like to say that taking drugs is a bad addiction that may cause, bad things to your body, as said in the sections before. Drugs, needless to say, are necessarily the types seen before, but medication also counts. This means that also taking a lot of medication without a recipe may count as an addiction, and this is also dangerous for your body. So the best thing to do in the case of drugs as medication is to consume the amount that is required in the recipe and not being like auto-medication or so. So drugs are bad. Don't do drugs.